Hey team, welcome back to the show. Today I have Kyle Baxter back on. Y'all know him as Coach Baxter. Kyle, welcome back, dude.
Happy to be here.
So last episode we did a deep dive into glute training, just talked through biomechanics, technique fixes, just a lot of things around building better glutes. Super fun episode for me. I know I got a lot of good feedback on it. A lot of people said we had to have you back on. Of course, I wanted to have you back on because we only got through like a quarter of the outline that I had. So today want to get into more big picture. I'm sure we'll kind of go down some rabbit holes, but wanted to get into more big picture, just kind of hypertrophy program design as a whole, volume, frequency, intensity, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing that is newer to me as well. So excited to get into it. You good to just hop right in?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. To kick things off, I want us to talk training volume. This is something we've talked about a lot lately. My training volume personally is quite low. Why is that?
So, training volume, it's usually measured with sets per week. And in order to be able to perform and be recovered in the next session. So we need to understand what what fatigue or what limitations every set might put on you and what stimulus every set might give you. Right? So ideally, hypertrophy program, we want the maximum stimulus with the least amount of fatigue.
Mhm.
Once we get the maximum stimulus, we cannot stimulate the muscle anymore. Right? So say that you have 100 units of protein synthesis, and those 100 units go to two things. They go to building your muscle bigger, and they go to repairing your muscle and other things. It doesn't really work like this, but it's a good analogy. Right? We have 50 and 50. Perfect. We do a workout, we have maximum stimulus, and we have some fatigue. We have 50 units of protein synthesis going to gains. We have 50 units protein synthesis going to repair. So you get net 50. Perfect. If we were to do 10 more sets, maybe we have 90 of those, because repair is more important than extra gains. We have 90 of those units going to repair, and we have 10 units going to gains, right? So
Okay.
this would be what is quote unquote junk volume.
Mhm.
So with volume, we also need to understand that every set, I think counting sets per week is a very rudimentary way of looking at volume, because every set is not created equal. It's like if I was to say, hey, go count the fruits in your fridge. How many fruits do you have? It doesn't really tell you what those fruits are. It just tells you things. It just tells you something. It's very broad, right? But
Mhm.
if I said, hey, you're going to do 10 sets of quad extension per week, right? How fatiguing is quad extension? Not a ton. Usually a shortened position exercise, not extremely loadable. Relative to if I said you're going to do 10 sets of hack squat per week, maybe divide into two sessions. You have two sessions of 5 sets of hack. You'd be fricked.
Sounds terrible. Yeah.
There's no way, right? So we want to get the maximum stimulus with the, and we want it to be repeatable. That's the only thing that I care about. So we don't really know for every human. We know like some things are more fatiguing than others, etc. But we want the maximum stimulus and we want it to be repeatable. That's how you find someone's training volume. So when you start, if you have some sort of framework, it's really just a guess, right? I give you X amount of sets per week. Can you recover or not? And how do I know if you're recovering? You can lift more weight the next time, right? If we're stalled on the lift for 2, maybe 3 weeks, it's like, okay, either A, we're pushing into like very, very greasy reps for a long time that are a lot more fatigued than they are stimulus, or we have too much volume. It's very simple. So when it comes to training volume, I would say like if I had to put a number on it of sets, if say that we have different exercises, not just the same exercise, like between 4 and 10 sets per week,
Per
and
muscle group.
then make a program and then see what happens. So for you, and this is a test I kind of use. So if we understand, like if we are a sprinter or we're a long distance runner, we have different propensity of like muscle fibers, right?
Hmm.
Fast twitch or slow twitch. Fast twitch would be the ones that hypertrophy a lot, but they also are very fatigable. So if we are a slow twitch human, we can maybe handle more volume because
Okay.
our muscles are less fatigued. Like they just let fatigue. They get less gains, but they get less fatigue. So a test that I use is if you were to do an exercise to failure for a muscle group, and this is like muscle group dependent, you do 2 sets to failure at the exact same load, and we look at your drop off. Um, and if your drop off is large, we know that you are a little bit more fast twitch of a human.
Okay.
So I have a client so if I give him 2 sets of chest press, he'll get like a 9 and a 5. Like the set of 5 is kind of like useless. So he does like
Hmm.
very low. He has just 1 set of everything, and he grows like
Okay.
crazy,
Okay.
right? So that's good. But someone who gets like Mads, my fiance, is like should get like a 10-8-9 or 10-9-8 in
Hmm.
3 sets. It's like okay, like
Hmm.
the set of 8 is still doing something, right? Because she's like less fatigable. Obviously, exercise selection matters as well, right? So if I have a shortened position exercise, you can probably get away with like more sets of that, and you'll have less drop off. So if it's
Hmm.
like a hip thrust or a quad extension, it's like you're probably going to get a little bit closer. You shouldn't have a
Okay.
gigantic drop off, but like on a compound, if you do like a chest press or a pack squat, it's like if you do 2 sets at the same load to the same intensity, like what is the drop off of reps? That's kind of a thing I use to, and like people will know if they've lifted for a while of like that's why they do if they do top set, back off set, like that's why they do that. So they can be accurate with the other rep range because they have so much drop off.
There's a difference between men and women there, though, as far as like your ability to recover between sets as well, right? Like, can't women recover quicker between sets, or is
It's
that because women have more slow twitch
it's
fibers?
because of the slow twisting. It has nothing to do with
Got
biological.
it.
It has nothing to do with biological sex. It has everything to do with the muscle fiber makeup, right? Like
Got,
I
got,
used to train like volleyball athletes,
got.
and they would be frigged between sets. Because
Okay,
why are they good volleyball athletes? Because they're fast twitch. They can
got
jump
it.
really high and hit a ball really hard, right? So
Okay.
it's only to do with like fiber makeup. Like if you have like a long distance runner, they can do like 4 sets of 10 till failure with like slow rest, and they might get like very similar reps.
Okay.
So that has everything to do with just like fiber makeup. They don't grow very well,
Yeah.
but it has everything to do with like fiber makeup.
Okay. So if we do, okay, so like for me, I'm doing like one set of my hack squat, one set of like my single leg press, for example. Are we just looking at, as far as signs that the stimulus that I'm getting in my training is adequate? Are we just looking at like, hey, is the logbook progressing or not? Or is there anything else you're looking at there to ensure we're getting a productive stimulus?
Um, is logbook progressing? Is technique standardized? So like our first block, I looked at like, okay, we have a washout period when we start a new program, right? We have
Hmm.
neurological adaptations, even if, especially with me as a coach, because I'm very meticulous with technique, right? So you send me videos, I give you feedback. That's immediately a new exercise. There's a
Right.
washout period. So like after 3 weeks, like you're pretty good at everything. You don't really need to send me videos. Now the washout period kind of the learning period is over. And now you put things into practice for like another 2 weeks. Then like after week 5, it's like, okay, we can compare like what is happening. And then it's like, okay, the numbers on your quad stuff aren't going up as fast as we would like. It's like, okay, maybe in the next program or now we need one like a little bit less, and
Okay.
thus kick 1 set off. And now we have the program that you have now.
So is the only way for us to distinguish if the answer is less or more? Like, what if the answer there was I need more volume? I'm slow twitch. Is it just we do that like the test with like my drop off between sets? Do you understand
You
what I'm asking there?
like you would just be progressing like crazy. Be like, I feel fresh, like my numbers are good, right? Or like
Okay.
if we have the drop off, it's like we can try, like it's just a trial and error for me.
Okay. So it's not really like a, oh wow, one set just isn't enough stimulus for you to actually grow. Like it sounds like in general, if we're training well, training hard enough, that's going to be enough for us to progress. It's just like, wow, we could for sure handle more. That wasn't that difficult.
Yeah, if we're super slow twitch, we might not get to like, so each set is less stimulus, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I can't fire high stress motor units at that level because I'm slow
Okay.
twitch. So it's like each,
Okay.
if you're a 5 stimulus and a 5 fatigue, they're a 2 stimulus and a 2 fatigue.
Okay. That
So
makes
to
sense.
get to the same amount, they need more sets.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So that's like if someone's not, we can kind of like, yeah, if someone's not like, if we feel like they're not progressing like visually, it's like, okay, maybe we don't take the super greasy rep, but we'll give you a little bit more volume, maybe on like shortened position exercises, and
Hmm.
then we'll see how it goes.
And I mean, I feel like that's not a question like that is also like you will see like in the person's check-ins and their feedback if it's a recovery issue or if they're feeling great and they're feeling fresh as well. So there's a lot more to that. But progression has been a big thing we've discussed here. So like someone who is more intermediate or advanced, are you expecting them to then like be progressing weekly if we're on the right amount of volume typically?
Every if we're stuck for more than like 2 or 3 weeks on the same lift, like I would change something usually.
Okay.
Like you don't have to PR every lift every week, but if we're not PRing anything, like that's probably an issue.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and then it's just I don't think it really. I don't think the advanced lifter thing matters as much.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like and like a lot of the people who I work with, they're like, I've been lifting for 6 years. I'm an advanced lifter. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're horrible at this. I need to
That's
give
what
you
you
cues
told
on
me.
I need to give you cues on every exercise. Right. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm so meticulous with things that like now the skills are different.
Okay.
But yeah, I think like even if you're a quote unquote advanced lifter, you should still be progressing.
Okay.
If as long as like obviously nutrition is an important part, right? We need X amount of carbohydrates for fuel. If we have no carbohydrate, very low carbohydrates, our muscle goes into, I call it like that, like power saver mode. So like
Hmm.
when your watch is in low power, what does it show you? The time, and that's it.
Right.
Right? It's in power saver mode. So if we have low muscle glycogen, we will literally not be able to fire high threshold motor units. You can try as
Hmm.
hard as you can, but your muscles in power saver mode. It only has one function, and that's do the
Right.
minimum thing.
Right.
Right? So maybe it's a nutrition issue, right? Oh, I haven't progressed in so many years. It's like, well, you've been eating 1,100 calories and you're 80 kilos. Like, okay, like maybe we need to figure out that, right? So like I would always, so when usually people are like post workout is the most important, pre workout is the most important, and intra workout is the most important. Like if we were pulling all of your carbs out, I would keep carbs pre and intra, and I would pull carbs post if we were dieting hard. Because
Okay.
you're going to get carbs before the next workout. Right?
Hmm.
Do you recover less? Yes. But we're not worried about recovery. We're worried about max fat loss. But in order to keep tissue around, we need to perform. So those are the other things I would kind of look at of like sleep is a hard one because it's all over the place of like, oh, I get bad sleep. It's like, do you get bad REM sleep or do you get bad deep sleep? Like in a umbrella term, REM sleep would be the cognitive things and deep sleep would be the physical thing. So it's like Sleep's a hard one, but
Okay.
nutrition is like very cut and dry. Do you eat this food or not?
Yeah. Okay. And it sounds like technique in itself would be a big, like if someone's not progressing, I think that's probably one of the most common culprits actually is just like we really suck at actually getting a stimulus for this muscle. It's not like you need more volume or less. Maybe we could do with less volume, but it's oftentimes like we just aren't good at training yet.
Yeah, so there's two things there. If we look at hypertrophy being muscle fiber specific, right? So if you like zoom in on one muscle fiber, that's what hypertrophy like. Does this muscle fiber get tension? Not this
Mhm.
muscle or this group of muscles or this motor. Like, does this muscle fiber get tension? Right. So
Mhm.
accuracy kind of important. And
Yeah.
then from a physio perspective, I don't want to, I hate saying physio perspective because I view it all as the same. But if you have lack of true range of motion somewhere, you will have decreased motor unit recruitment because your body
Okay.
is fighting, your body doesn't want to go into that position.
Right.
Right. So if I can't bend my knee very well and I do a hack squat, my knee will bend because the task will always win. But my body's like, what are you doing? Don't do this. Don't bend the knee. So I'm going to get less quad stimulus, right? Like I've reached the peak body weight I ever have been. And my steps were super low for a couple weeks and my knees started to be a little bit achy. And what happened? My hack squat numbers went down because as soon as you have a range of motion you don't want to be in or um, some sort of discomfort, motor unit recruitment will go down. So
Okay.
technique, very important. People are like, oh, this trains through pain. I was like, good luck. Good luck with hypertrophy training through pain. Good luck with performance training through pain because in order to perform, you need motor unit recruitment and it will go down if you're in pain.
So when people talk about lagging muscle groups, a lot of times the thought process is, I need more volume for these lagging muscle groups. Do you think that's a thing? Do they just suck at training?
I usually it's the opposite. So you technique would be the first one, right? It's like, hey,
Hmm.
I can't hit the bullseye on this dartboard. I need more darts. It's like, okay, more darts might help you hit the bullseye because you have better technique. But if I need to hit the bullseye and I have good technique, I maybe need one dart. I just hit the bullseye, right? So there's that. And then we have, if we're not accurate, or sometimes we're doing too much and we can't recover because hypertrophy doesn't occur in one workout, right? It occurs from repeated stimulus.
Right.
You've probably done this when you were starting to lift. You would do like hack with like, and your buddies would be there and you do 4 plates and they'd pull a plate off and you do as many as you can and then you pull a plate off and then you wouldn't walk for like 5 days. And then there's no way you can repeat that every single week, right? So usually it's like we have too much volume and then like we have a debt of this atrophy that occurs because we can't actually stimulate the muscle because it's not recovered from the last workout. And then like over 6 weeks, our muscle has actually like maybe gotten smaller. And that's kind of like how a lagging muscle group happens. So I would do like I would look at technique, but also like probably look at like bringing volume down.
We can't simulate the muscle because it's not recovered from the last workout. Will you explain that a little bit more? What does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, let's not get into neurophysiology. So when a muscle gets fatigued, or we have changes in the structure, those changes in the structure will suggest that nerve impulses can't get to the muscle. So motor unit gets fired, nerve signal comes down, axon gets to the muscle, but there's a bridge that's broken, so it can't get across. So we can't fire that motor unit. Means less force,
Okay.
right? We have other things that connect fascia to muscle fiber. If think about like hot dog to hot dog casing, if I was just to pull the meat of a hot dog and the casing isn't connected, the meat would just slide in the hot dog. But we need both of those because the hot dog casing connects to the tendon. That's the fascia.
Crazy good visual. Okay.
So if we
Okay.
don't, I know you have like a lot of American viewers, so they understand the dog analogy.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
if we don't have connection between those things, because the damage to the muscle will change the structure, now we just can't transmit as much force from contractile elements to tendon. And thus,
Okay.
we can't produce as much force, which means we can't put tension across these fibers.
Okay.
So basically, when you train, your muscle will accumulate different metabolites and chemicals. These will break down the structure, and then the structure needs to be built back up. If you train again before the structure is built back up, you won't be able to produce as much force because the muscle is structurally different.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the breaking down, this is like there's multiple theories, but the training doesn't break down the muscle structure. The training leads to things accumulating in the muscle that code for enzymes that break down the structure. It's a
Okay.
chemical thing. It's a chemical thing, not a mechanical thing.
Okay. Interesting.
Um,
So, go ahead.
no, that's it.
So, when we're looking at training intensity, then, um, I think that the thought would typically be like, okay, if we're just doing one set, we need to take everything to like utter failure. We're gonna do drop sets, things like that. Is that the case in your experience or no?
Um, for most people, yes, take everything to failure, just because failure is the only RIR or reps in reserve, RPE, rate of perceived exertion, that we can quantify. And we know 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Not even 100%, but we know with more certainty, right? Like, say if I said leave 2 reps in reserve, how do you really know? You don't. But if I go to failure, like I know I'm there because I can't
Yeah.
do it anymore. So the reason I like failure is because we can actually compare like things. So
Okay.
then when we can compare like things, we can make changes and we understand that these are like things, right?
Okay.
We're not comparing fruits, we're comparing banana to other banana. Okay, that's a little bit more accurate. Um, and for certain, especially for certain muscle groups, um, we that might quote unquote experience more fatigue and need less volume, can handle less volume, going to complete failure is going to be maybe more fatiguing than it is stimulating, right? So
Okay.
that ratio of like 5 to 5 becomes like 5 to 6 if you're taking a forced rep on a hack squat,
Right.
right? The forced rep doesn't give you any more stimulus
Okay.
because you're not doing it. You're not doing the work,
Right.
right?
Okay.
There's not really like past failure. You just change the task. So maybe some people, I'm like, hey, on these, if something's not progressing, like maybe they're taking a bunch of greasy reps past failure, I'll be like, okay, this week, like, don't take any greasy reps. If you don't think you're going to get it, just don't do it. Because, like, we know as long as we're lifting relatively heavy, like, relatively heavy means closer to failure. And if I give someone a lower rep range, which as soon as someone's accurate, I'll give them a lower ish rep range. Like, the, the 6 to 12 is kind of like my sweet spot for most things. I know that that's quite heavy. So we're going to be getting a stimulus close to the end of the set anyways. So like if we get rid of that 1 rep, we know we still got a stimulus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
that's kind of like if someone's not progressing and like they send me their lifts and they're like their last rep is 24 seconds long, it's like, okay, like I don't know how much stimulus relative to fatigue we're getting in that rep. But if you want to lift like that all the time, we might just need less volume. So there's no really right or wrong. It's just like we need to be progressing training. And if we're
Okay.
not, then we're not growing because we're not getting because progressive overload is retrospective. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't choose progressive overload. You progressive overload tells you did something right before,
Right.
right? So say that you do hack squat for 5 reps. Then next week you say, okay, I'm going to get more than 5 reps. You don't choose to get more than 5 reps. You try as hard as you can. And then after, you get 7 reps. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I know that I got an adaptation in my muscle that helps me produce more force because I got more reps. What is that adaptation? Hypertrophy. Because the other adaptations you probably already have by then. Unless you just started hack squat before. Let's say you've been doing hack squat for like 9 weeks. And you get 5, and then you get 7. It's like, okay, that I don't choose progressive overload. Progressive overload tells me that I got gains.
Right. Okay.
It's not the other way around. It's not like I choose. You don't choose it. If you're like, oh, progressive overload, I'm gonna do as many as I can. You get 4. It's like, okay, maybe you didn't get gains. Maybe we did something wrong.
So the primary reason for choosing lower rep ranges is people load it heavier, so thus it's easier for us to ensure we're closer to failure, essentially.
Um, yes and no. So it's a bell curve. So we need to be accurate on the fibers, like we talked about before. So
Hmm.
we can go too low on certain exercises in which we're not accurate. Right? Like, would I give someone a dumbbell lateral raise 6 repper? Probably not. I actually feel dumbbell lateral raises quite well, and I can do a 6. But would I give it to someone? Probably not, because they're not accurate on the muscle,
Right.
right? But if someone's doing a seated chest press, they're not going anywhere. If their pressing technique is good, like maybe I give them like a 5 to 8,
Yeah.
right? So the longer we go in a set, any kind of discomforting feeling is going to decrease motor unit recruitment. And the longer the set goes, the more chance there is discomfort in the human.
Okay. Interesting.
And the longer the set goes, the closer we need to get to failure to get a stimulus, because each rep means less. Right? So if
Okay.
I do a 20 repper, the first 10 are no stimulus. Because think if I just stopped after 10,
Right.
right? But if I did a 12 repper and stopped after 10, it's like, okay, I got some stimulus,
Yeah.
right? But if I did 8 reps and I went all the way to 8 reps, it's like, okay, cool. Like we're probably doing something well. There's more,
Okay.
because the reps closer to failure are where you get the gains.
Right. Okay. Do
But
you basically go ahead? I'm sorry.
any discomforting feeling will decrease our ability to push hard into that like higher threshold motor unit pool. So
Okay.
if you do a 50, can you get a stimulus from 30 rep quad extension? Yes. Is it hard? Yes, because you probably have so much metabolite build up and burn that you're just crying by the end of the set. So would I do a 15 on quad extension? Yes, perfect. That's half the reps. Like there's going to be probably half the metabolites built up, and I get half the burning in my quads. So
Hmm.
there's less discomfort, which means I can push harder. That's why like pain and exercise selection and stuff is like very, very important. Of like, hey, does it feel good? Do you enjoy the exercise? Do you look at the paper and say, I'm excited to do this workout? If you are, you're automatically going to get more gain.
Okay. So to bring it back to the volume thing, it sounds like there are some muscle groups that are going to be positioned to or are typically going to need less volume potentially. Like or will recover slower. That's more so related than frequency than anything else. Let me rephrase the question. Do you find there are typically muscle groups that need less volume or more than
Uh,
others?
just muscle groups that recover slower. So
Okay.
anything that like has to be trained in like a quite a lengthened position
Hmm.
needs it just the lengthened position suggests it has more damage. So if there's only really 2 muscle groups that I ever think about this, because there's only so many muscle groups that can be trained in a lengthened position, in my opinion. So like the chest works best here, which is in shoulder extension, because the pec stretches around the rib cage.
Right.
would be the lengthened position of a pec. So like a deep press. It only works till about halfway through the press. It still works at the end, but like the tricep and delt do a lot of things. So if I want chest, I need to do a deep chest press. I probably am gonna get more fatigue and more damage, which means I will need less volume.
Okay.
If I can still do the same thing. So if I do a chest, most chest fly machines, if it's not like a prime machine where you can control the resistance, will get hard in like the shortened position. And it's not
Hmm.
really a true lengthened pack because true lengthened pack will occur in a press, not in a fly. Because it occurs at around 45 to 60 degrees of abduction. A fly would be 90 degrees of abduction for most people, right?
Okay.
So if I'm doing just a fly, okay, maybe I can get away with. I need to understand like a fly is probably less fatiguing than a press. So if you do 6 sets of pressing or 3 sets of pressing and 3 sets of flies, okay, that's very different. But our quote
Right.
unquote volume on paper for chest, sets of chest per week are different. And then the hamstrings would be the other one. Like it's a biarticular muscle that's basically fiber orientation, I think matters as well. So it's like quite a straight muscle.
Mhm.
I forget all the muscle types. Like the quad's more like a pennate muscle. I'm gonna get roasted for this. But yeah, so like
If it helps, I have no idea what you're talking about.
well, basically, if you look at like if you were to get feathered quads,
Hmm.
right? The fibers are like an arrow. That's like pennate,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. I just did not understand what the phrase pennate meant. Okay.
Yeah. So that, and then if you get like peeled hamstrings, they're not like sideways. The fibers run straight up and down.
Correct. Yes.
So like the hamstrings like would be another muscle group where like you have more their experience is more damage because you have to train it in a lengthened way, and the fiber direction goes pretty much like a little bit straighter. Every other
Basically,
muscle
it's just
really there's not really a difference between lengthened and shortened in my opinion.
basically like the hamstrings are really well set up to just experience a lot of loading under a lot of stretch.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
right.
So I feel like that ties into frequency very well, though. Like, how important do you think frequency is? Is once a week greater? Like the for, I feel like this is
Yeah.
always a back and forth. Like as long as volumes match, it doesn't matter. But I'm guessing you don't think that's the case based on this conversation.
The best this is my I don't it's kind of the research opinion and my opinion. The best frequency is 2 times a week.
Okay, simple.
1 time a week. We do have like once a muscle it's either growing or shrinking. So like once it's done growing, it starts to shrink. And then if it shrinks more than it grows, then we don't get gains. Shrinks the same amount, right? So if I was to work on a muscle every 7 days, we will have more growth than we have shrinking,
Hmm.
but it's we're not gonna we're gonna be on the downtrend a little bit more before we make that muscle grow again.
Okay.
So like the bro split, you can make good progress having like training a muscle once a week, but we can maybe make better progress if we train it more frequently. If we train it more frequently, we need less we have less time in between bouts of training that muscle, so the volume has to be lower. And we need to be more accurate to make sure we get a stimulus.
Hmm.
So when we get up to like 3 times a week training a muscle, or like some people do every other day, it's like we have to do 1 or 2 sets.
Yeah.
If you're not accurate in those 1 or 2 sets, like you're not getting gains. That's why like people are like,
Yeah.
oh, like new lifters should train full body every other day, which is quote unquote optimal. It's like, okay, new lifters aren't accurate. If I give them only 1 set, how do I know they're getting a stimulus on the right muscle? They're all over the place. Have you ever learned, like, if you've PT'd in person, anyone listening to this, you give your client a chest press, they're all over the place. There's no way they're getting a stimulus. But you only give them 1 set. So I think the accuracy play comes into it. So that best frequency, in my opinion, for hypertrophy is 2 times per week. There is like quote unquote research that shows that 2 and 3 times have basically minimal difference. But just from a programming perspective, like personally, it gets less fun when you're training multiple times, like so many times per week.
I'd agree with that.
I
So
want to
there's
do
not real.
I want to do more sets on the muscle group in one workout. I think it's more fun.
Yeah. So there's not past twice a week. It doesn't sound like there's any additional advantage to like us doing more frequency, even if we're matching volume. Or let's say we're doing like I really want to bring up my delts, so I'm doing a lot of like short bias movements, of course, higher frequency. Do you think there's any merit to like an approach like that?
Yes, but not for all muscle groups at the same time,
Okay. You're
right?
not
So
like
like
a mental Henselman split.
no,
Okay.
I don't really know what that means, but I don't want to talk. I don't really.
I,
I'm not going to comment on anything Menno because I'm pretty sure he's a psychopath and he'll like kill me. So
last I knew, I think he trained full body 6 or 7 times a weekend. Just at the, but
yeah, training 6 or 7 times a week is there's the flaw in my book. It's like you can't. It's not really. Maybe 6 is fine. 7 is a no go. You need one rest there. So it's fine if you want to quote unquote bring up a muscle group to have a little bit of extra volume on one day. We just need to account for that. So delts, like, I don't really think there's any such thing as a lengthened delt.
yeah.
Just like there's no lengthened upper back. Like there's a resistance profile that suggests a lengthened position, but there's not
Hmm.
really a lengthened position of the muscle because it just doesn't go very far. Right? Like your upper back muscles protract this much. And
Yeah.
your delt, how much does your lateral delt move? Like nothing. Not at all. Right? So you don't really need like all of the exercises are quite similar. They're quite the same. Right. So if you want to bring up your delts, it's like, okay, we do standards, but we do push pull legs, rest, upper lower rest. Seems to be a popular split. You train delts on push day. You train some delts on Monday. You train some lateral delts before legs on Wednesday. And then you train the lateral delts on upper day on Friday.
Hmm.
And you hit delts 3 times a week. Is that better than 2? Maybe, maybe not. Are you progressing all your lifts? Okay. I can't say if it's definitively better because I think for some people it might be, for some people it might not be.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like it's basically going to come down from if we're recovering from it or not,
Yeah,
and
I
if we
just
can
think,
drive the right amount of.
yeah, if we're doing all muscle groups though, like I want to train all muscle groups 2 times a week, I just think, especially if you're in a commercial gym, it just becomes a logistical nightmare.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, and it's not a fun way to train either.
Like there's this guy who works out at a gym near where I live at home, by the way. He's like a seems to be a super popular like TikTok guy. And his workouts are like 24 sets, 24 exercises with like 1 set of each. And like, he seems to get sick
Oh,
results with his clients, don't get me wrong. But it just
okay.
seems like a logistical nightmare to me. I need 24 different machines and I work out at an actual gym.
Yeah. Huh. I'll have to follow
If
him.
you're strong at all, probably need some warm up sets for these things.
That's what I was just thinking. It's the worst part.
Like I, dude, I need to warm up quite a bit for most of my lifts. And if I go to a different muscle group and a different muscle group, it's like optimality, quote unquote, becomes a headache at some point. So it's like I would rather get less gains and enjoy my workout more than like having to wait for that. And then like if you switch order of workout, that affects if you compare numbers to numbers. So if I have
Right.
24 exercises and I do hip thrust as exercise 6 and I do hip thrust as exercise 8 on the other day, then I'm just like, how can I compare? I can't really compare that as much. And then it just becomes a headache. So there's a point where the frequency I think is very important, and I think you should up your if you can have a split that you really want to make something better. If you can have a split that doesn't fall within a 7-day week, sometimes that's better. Usually, normal people have a split that falls into a 7-day week because their work falls into a 7-day week. Right?
Yeah.
Like my work doesn't fall into a 7-day week. I sit on this computer every single day. So I could train or not train and it doesn't matter. Right? But so I could run a split that has me have higher frequency, which might be better because it doesn't fall within a 7-day week. And I have the
Okay.
same amount of rest days between each workout, which is something that we don't take into account. Right. So
Yeah.
if I train 2 times a week, I will always have, assuming they're split up equally, a time where I have 4 sleeps and a time where I have 3 sleeps in between hitting the muscle group.
Right.
Right. But if I have a time where I have 3 sleeps all the time, that's a little bit higher frequency, but it doesn't fall into a 7-day week. 7 is just an awkward number.
Okay.
So those are my thoughts on frequency. 2 times a week is the best. That's the
Upper
takeaway.
lower push pull lower is the way to go. I would agree with that.
It,
Uh, Talking intensity, do you ever program like training intensifiers like rest pauses, drop sets? What's your take?
I don't think drop sets are the play because drop sets are an easier task that is not going to get the high threshold motor units.
Okay.
Right. So it's like if I pre-fatigue you, if I do chest fly into chest press, you're just going to get less out of the chest press. Right. If I do a drop set, heavy chest press, and then light chest press, the light chest press is kind of just useless because I just did heavy chest. So
Okay.
drop set for me, not really the play. Rest pause is a great technique, especially for if you're a coach who does online things and you have clients who are more quote unquote Gen Pop people.
Yeah.
Because Gen Pop people think they're training to failure sometimes and they are not. Even coaches, even me sometimes, like I'll look at my set and I'll be like, that was hard as fuck. And then I'll look at the video and I'll say, like, oh wow, like I'm soft. So a rest pause ensures that we're getting to failure. So say that you give someone, they're like, I train super hard. It's like, okay, cool. Quad extension, you have a set of 8 to 12 with 2 extra efforts, right? So say maybe that 8 to 12, they're 3 RIR, but they think they're like all the way to failure. It's fine
Hmm.
because now you have a safety net that you rest 20 seconds, you do more reps, you rest 20 seconds, you do more. In those 2 efforts, you get to failure at some point.
Right.
So that's why when I would program a rest pause, if we have someone who is soft and can't train to failure, sometimes that's me. So if you get offended, like we're all like that sometimes. Or if we have a time crunch, because
Okay.
I do, is it the best way? Maybe not. But if I can, I would count like a set of quad extension with 2 rest pauses as like maybe 2 sets. If
Okay.
I can do 2 sets in the same time I can do 1 set, that's faster. And with
Yeah.
someone who doesn't have a lot of time, like maybe that's probably good because I get the stimulus and I make sure they're going to failure. So maybe like on the middle day where you're training we're still trying to bring up your delts. You have lateral raise on your leg day. Your leg day might already be super long. It's like maybe you start with lateral raise and you do a 3 rest pause. So you have 3 extra efforts after your first set, and it's just faster. You don't have to rest X amount of minutes between sets, and you can get into your leg stuff a little bit quicker.
Okay.
So I think drop sets are just no from a from a theory perspective. It doesn't make sense to me, right? If I was to say just like a deload doesn't make sense. To go in there and just lift 50% of the load you would lift and don't go to failure.
Hmm.
If we know how to get a stimulus, you have to lift heavy close to failure. So I'm not getting a stimulus and I'm just going through the motions. I just felt just take a nap, man. Right. So I usually do like devolume where it's like, oh, okay, cool. We've built up some fatigue. We still want some sort of stimulus. So go in there, do the same intensity, but just do 1 set of everything instead of like 2 or 3.
Right.
That would be beneficial because we know what gets a stimulus is training close to failure. So a drop set is similar to like a deload for me. It's like I don't ever want to lift lighter. We might lift less, but I don't want to lift lighter. So
Do you use supersets very often in your training at all?
um if someone is, see, again, logistical nightmare. Never for the same muscle group, because again, the same thing we just talked about.
Yeah,
I'm just getting less out of the second.
right.
But I might do like just say at the end of my workout, and then my pull day, I want to do biceps, but I want to do calves at the same time, and I'm in a time crunch. Like maybe I go back and forth between calves and biceps. I still take a
Okay.
little bit of rest in between, but we get more work done in a shorter period of time. I don't think there's like a crazy detriment to the stimulus that you get. So if someone, I wouldn't maybe program it for an entire workout unless someone has like
Yeah.
their own home gym and really has not a lot of time. But if they have a home gym, they're saving time not going to the gym. So like, how busy are you really? Um, but yeah, I would always do like alternating muscle groups or muscle groups that like don't really have anything to do with each other. So
Okay.
like UP, like a popular like training gym, Ultimate Performance is like one of the biggest PT gyms in the world, or they were.
Okay.
And they run like I think push and hamstrings, and then like quads and back.
Okay.
It's all supersets because it's a PT session. It's only 50 minutes long. And
Right.
then make sure that they have equipment. It's like I'm a PT, you're a PT in the same gym. You have to run push and hamstrings, and I run quads and back so that we're not on the same machine at the same time. And like
Smart.
it's like a logistical genius thing, and you get so much more work
Yeah.
done in the session. And you're kind of like supersetting muscle groups that don't really have anything to do with each other, and the stimulus is still the same because you only have a 50-minute session. So, from logistical purposes, sometimes it's a nightmare, sometimes it's better, especially in a gym where like it's hard to superset things if we're using machines for two exercises.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I would program it, but never for the same muscle group.
Okay. Makes sense. Somewhat related to the intensity conversation, more of a coaching question. I'm sure you run into a lot with lower body movements, especially. Every week it's like, dude, we're not close to failure. We have a lot more in the tank, and people just aren't taking it there, especially on like a lower body compound movement. Past just like, hey, try harder next week. What do we do there? How do you address that?
Um, I'm gonna explain like what we want to see,
Hmm.
right? Like, hey, like we want to see the last rep. This is probably a person who's not, it doesn't really need to slow down like crazy if you're doing like a
Hmm.
very low amount of reps.
Hmm.
But the person who doesn't train super, super hard close to failure is probably not doing a lower amount of reps anyways. So say
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like I need to see the last rep not look like the first rep.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll like send them a video of me doing it and be like, hey, like, do you see, look at the end of this? Like, this is what we want to see.
Hmm.
Or I'll just be like, I don't care if you think you're done. You're not done to just bury yourself on the hack squat. Like just fail. Fail on the
Yeah.
pendulum. Fail on the chest press machine. You just don't stop. And then like the person will understand like, oh, like I just could keep going when I thought I was done.
Hmm.
So those are the three things that I would do. Like send them a video of what I want it to look like, explain what I want it to look like, and be like, hey, self-govern yourself. Like look at your set. I'd like it to look like this. Like don't send me a video and ask how's the intensity. You know what it should look like. Just make it look like this, and then
Okay.
just again like the rest pause thing, just force the failure. You know, like you're just gonna stop. Trust me, it's safe. You're just gonna go until you can't.
Yeah.
When you're in the bottom of the hack squat, you're gonna climb out. You're gonna get some nice gym patron to help you lift it up, and then that is failure. And then you learn,
Okay.
right? Like you don't know what a place is unless you go there. So it's like, oh, like I've literally failed. Okay, that's how it should feel. Okay, maybe you stop a little bit before that, but I know how it feels now.
Right.
So yeah, that's mainly what I would do. And then the last one is like we talked about earlier. If they don't have the range of motion, the true range of motion for an exercise, it will be more uncomfortable as they
Hmm.
perform the exercise. So it might actually be that they're so uncomfortable that they stop, but it's not because they're soft. It's because they literally don't have the range of motion, and their body's like, "Ooh, let's stop this," right? And some other thing is stopping them from pushing harder, right? So someone feels their delts in a chest press because they have no range of motion in their shoulder,
Right.
or like it doesn't like they don't feel the muscle that much. It just gets hard because the joint doesn't want to bend
Hmm.
the way it should, right? It's like not, or like maybe there's some discomfort or pain, and that's why they stopped. It's like one of those things could be a reason as well. So like a lot of my clients, if anyone's listening to this, I'll when there's a set that's like kind of soft, I'll just say, why did this set stop?
Hmm.
Sometimes they'll be like, oh, my grip slipped. I didn't have straps. I'm like, okay, get straps, right?
Right.
You don't really know unless it's like sometimes like, oh yeah, like I'm kind of soft. Like maybe I'll push harder next time. I had more. I was like, get to buy some
Okay.
from me. Just keep going. Yeah. So that's kind of
Okay.
like the intensity coaching things of like it's hard to try hard if you've never tried hard before. It's just trying hard is
Yeah.
a skill, just like anything. It's like technique. It's a skill.
I found a decent amount recently clients where it's just like I asked the same question like what caused us to stop, and it's not like it's kind of just like as a whole just like a whole body sense of terribleness. I found that it's helpful to get that person doing like let's say like 2 20-minute rounds cardio. We're just doing like heart rate a little higher, like 140 150 beats per minute. I found that to be quite helpful as well. It doesn't make sense to that like it would be like the aerobic system in that case though. And I mean we're getting a little bit higher there. But I found it like in anecdote it seems helpful.
Yeah, it's just even the ability to handle CO2 and like buffer CO2 out is a thing. So
Hmm.
it's not like obviously not the aerobic system if we're like going that hard. But there is like a cardiovascular component of like that can increase perception of effort. So just having a better cardiovascular system becomes less of an issue. Right? Like a high heart rate is going to decrease our ability to push hard.
Right, right. Okay.
So that's
Makes complete sense.
definitely a thing. And that's why like,
Yeah.
from the start, I always give all of my clients cardio. Because
Okay.
they
Okay.
like the brag of like my clients don't do cardio. I was like, you're just telling everyone you're a worse coach. Don't do that. Like just have everyone do cardio. It's quite important.
Love it.
So
On that note, I think that was a good note for us to wrap things up on.
all right.
As always, dude, thank you for being here. Anything else? Any final thoughts you want to leave people with before we wrap it up? I know that was kind of
Um,
abrupt.
when it comes to like all these training things, this is all like hypothetical stuff we talk, but every human is different. So like try something. Most people now, this is I'm generalizing, will want to do the perfect thing before they've tried anything, which leads them to not trying anything long enough to know if it works. So like we talked about earlier before the show, just give yourself a timeline for these things of like I'm gonna try this split for X amount of weeks. I'm gonna look at my progression and see. Then after those weeks, it's like it's okay if you don't make progression for 2 weeks because you don't make money from how your body looks, probably if you're listening to this, right? You just want your body to look better. Like you have a normal job. You're a normal person. So it's like, oh, maybe you quote unquote wasted 2 weeks, but you didn't waste 2 weeks because those 2 weeks that you weren't making progress told you what you need to change to make progress in the future. So try something for X amount of time and then make a change. That's the best way to know what works for you because you are a different human than me.
It's also pretty wild how many people are scared to try something different because they might not make progress who already are making progress.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Like I just hired someone to do my programming because I know how I program and I'm just going to program how I program forever because I
Yeah.
only do one thing one way. I program different for different people, but like I only know what I know. So it's like, am I know I'm going to make progress if I train hard? Yes. Can I ever quantify the difference in progress if someone else is my training or me? Probably not. But it's like, do I want to experience something different? Like, yes, 100%.
Cool. Let's get big, dude.
All right.
All right. On that note, anything you'd like to plug before we wrap it up?
Not really. If you don't have me on Instagram, if I don't follow you on Instagram, follow me and DM me. Be like, hey, Bax, how's it going?
All the audience is going to go to you then. I'll put all that in the show notes. As always, dude, thank you for being here, and we'll catch you guys next time.